Welcome to the Smoking Word. Welcome to the Smoking Word.
I swear, if I wouldn't get flagged, I would have had Rawhide ready right here. I would have got but I'll probably get flagged. But listen, everybody, first of all, shout out to everybody who's been tapping in. We are back. It took a minute. I was in the studio again. When I come back, when I take my little leaves, I have to come back with a banger. And I was been wanting to do this for a minute, and the way the forces work, the forces that be is the way the forces that be. But it was meant to be today, and I'm glad we were able to make it happen. Stu, my man, Stu, Spirit World's finest. Some people know him from Folsom. We're going to get into that a little bit. But one of my favorite new bands, Spirit World in Nevada, right? Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, baby.
Straight up Las Vegas, representing Las Vegas and representing. We're gonna get into the whole. I'm gonna give them the OG, the Stetson OG label right off the grip, and the whole metal crossover, thrash, metalcore, whatever you want to put it. We're gonna talk about that too. But Stu, on the real, I'm glad to get you on. I've been following you guys from. First of all, let me just. We talked about it, but I'll let everybody who's listening who might not know of you guys kind of go. So during the 3-year hiatus the world had. You know, obviously, everybody's watching a lot of new music, and I'm starting to watch a lot of cool new bands come out, and I'm seeing that all on the thrash side, on the metal side of everything. Obviously, you know, even the hardcore punk side of stuff, there was a lot of new flavor coming out, but I was seeing the whole thrash crossover, death metal, kind of every hybrid of that, just a whole bunch of new bands coming out that I don't know, for some reason got my attention more than ever. And then I started seeing you guys. And then I'm watching you guys. I'm seeing it pop up. And I'm like, yo, this shit is dope. And I'm like, yo, I was glad to hear it still sounded up to date, but classic. You know what I mean? It had a thrash feel, but it still also had a death metal feel. It had a lot of the elements, but it had, there was a rawness to it. Again, this is before knowing who was who in the band, whatever. I'm following it. And then as I'm following, I'm like, I'm kind of following the band. Fast forward, we get to play with you guys. I see it on the bill. I'm like, oh, shit, dope. Yo, get to see you guys. We start talking. Then I realize who you are, from Folsom, doing shows in the fucking backyard, in the garage. What were it in the
It's in a junkyard, man.
The junkyard, we were talking about all those stories. Like, we'll get into that, but like, finding out the roots of who you were made it even better for me. But the band is great, and I think it was a perfect time for a band like you guys, right? So I just want to give you a shout out with that. But for everybody out there, let everybody. This is my brother Stu, my new bro, a road bro, and you might know him from Folsom. Let everybody know that the origins of you at Nevada, because Nevada has a lot of history in heavy music, but also it's very limited. You have your handful of bands that worldwide got, that put Nevada on the map as far as the underground.
Yeah, man.
How you find this shit in the desert? I know how, but to let the people know.
I was one of those lucky kids who I had older brothers that just showed me the light, So I was a benefactor of, like, I got to just come home from school, and every day in the car, my older brother would pick me up, and it's like Misfits, Social Distortion, 7 Seconds. And at the time I didn't know, I just liked it because it was cool, But then through them, they were going to all the like Bad Religion, Green Day shows at like the old Huntridge Theater, but they were also metalheads, seeing like Danzig and Pantera, White Zombie, all that like 90s shit, Machine Head, Biohazard. So by the time I kind of was cutting my teeth down here, I was already like a punk kid and doing DIY shows. And I actually moved to, I was living in Idaho for like the end of junior high into high school. And
Yeah.
so when I was up there, I went from like our circle of friends was a bunch of like skater kids and kind of like scumbag, like trashy kids, you know? And
Yeah.
when I got to Idaho, there was none of that. And so then the only like kids, it took a long time. I thought it was small, like the punk scene when I was in Vegas. And then I went to Pocatello, Idaho, and it was literally like there's 12 of us, you know what I mean? In the entire city. So that was where like I started booking shows and doing stuff when I was living in Idaho. And then I came back when I got out of high school, came back to Vegas. But the I've always been a part of like a really small scene where the only reason bands come is because people are so passionate about the bands that they're like punishing the motherfuckers. Like, yo, I see you're going on tour. You got an off day. I see you going to Southern California. What
Yeah.
are you doing the day before? Like, come to Las Vegas. And then I started throwing shows at the Hammer House. It was on Hammer Lane, but it was basically a shack. So I started booking every hardcore band I loved because Vegas is really difficult with all ages shows, right? So you have the casinos, they can have venues and they can do them all ages, and you can have a bar in there and everything's hunky dory. But they have this bullshit. It's called a like a teen dance permit, and that's the loophole that they've shut down every venue outside of the strip and the casino properties. So anybody that does shows, it ends up being illegal. And as soon as you start packing it out, where you get a good thriving scene, 300 kids rolling out, then all the DIY spots that aren't corporate owned would get shuttered. And so to combat that, like there was always like where there's a will, there's a way. So there
You
was
know
kids
that.
like getting generators. So I remember like Strike Anywhere coming to town and like from Richmond, and like the venue closed down and somebody just went and got a generator at Home Depot, and there was a slab of concrete on the east side of town, and it's like 50 kids spread the word, call each other, and then next thing you know, you got a punk show right in the
Yeah.
middle of the desert because there's a old concrete slab out there, you know? So
Yeah.
I kind of ran with that, and I had access. We were all kind of squatting, living in a junkyard that my old man owned. And so Folsom was practicing at the time, and I think Over My Dead Body and Count Me Out or somebody was needed a show, and I was like, "Well, we're building a like a little practice spot." And then I started doing shows and didn't stop doing it for like fucking 8 years or something crazy. Had like every band I loved that couldn't get a good show, Integrity, Ringworm. I don't know. The list goes on. Like everybody from that era.
I
So
remember
yeah,
we talked about it. It was pretty bugged out because I had heard about the spot through Ragman. You told me when they came through and
yeah.
just that and they being and it's also because of Folsom. But you know what bugged me out was I always thought Folsom was that you guys were from Northern California, from Folsom.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that, and
And
it
a lot of
started out.
relationships to California, you know what I mean? I know there's a lot of homeboys, a lot or whatever, and being close. So I was like, oh, that's the mix from there, the whole crew from up there, which is so. But how the
Yeah,
hell how Folsom? Why Folsom?
that was kind of a joke. Like I've always been into the country stuff, so it started out the name of the band was going to be Far From Folsom, like the Johnny Cash song, which then we
Uh,
dropped it, and I don't remember how or why, but basically we were ripping off a country song, but then you're playing hardcore, and then people are like, "Oh, it's like Rikers or whatever, that
yeah,
tough
I
shit." And I'm
took it
like,
as
"Yeah,
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
kind of like I took it as because in American me, the West Coast jails is Folsom. So I was like, oh, they're
yeah,
from California, Northern Cal. This is in my head. I go, oh, Folsom, like they must be from there. So also even better. So and again, I know already because we talked about it. Because again, that bugged me out about Spirit World with, the whole style and everything. But like your upbringing being country, like again, that ain't a typical thing for everybody. You know what I mean? Like a lot
yeah,
of people that listen to this crazy music of ours usually come from the more not that country is urban in a way. People I know where it's street grit music, but you know what I mean. It's not like regular 101 radio, pop radio music, which a lot of people that come into heavy music come from, and country is something that a lot of kids that I don't look at. It seemed to be in style when Johnny Cash popped up a couple years ago. Back, everybody all of a sudden like they said, "Oh, I'm into country because of Johnny Cash." A lot of
Yeah.
these people weren't really into country. You know what I mean?
It's like everything, man. Like I grew up in a household where like
I know you told me.
my cousins rodeoed and shit. So like
Oh
I
yeah,
had a
that's
really different upbringing where it's like we had a half pipe in the backyard, so we had like a bunch of skate punk kids hanging out, but then we also, were a bunch of hicks. So it's
yeah,
like
oh, yeah.
it's strange when you get older, you realize how unique it is. But when you're little, like I never gave a fuck. It's like we go to rodeos, and when I moved to Idaho, me and my twin brother, we like that's all we did all summer was junior rodeos,
Yeah.
riding bareback and riding steers and shit. And then you kind
Oh,
of
you rode.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
to an extent, once I started like riding yearling bulls where you're getting on an animal that's pretty fucking big, I didn't hit like my growth spurt until like midway through high school, right? So I was like 110 pounds trying to
uh,
like keep up with these big animals. So at that point, that's
yeah.
where I was like, this ain't for me, dude. Cause
Yeah,
you get hurt. Like it's not like playing basketball where you may get smoked, but like you get slammed on your head a couple times. You
yeah, with a
really make a quick decision. Like, are you gonna do this for the long haul or not? You know what I mean?
and that's perfect. That makes sense. Why would you would want to be a singer of a band, of this type of music? It makes all the sense in the world. Let me
Yeah,
jump
when I
on the
talk to
log.
people, they put the dots together, and I realize this project, like people come to it from like metal or hardcore or whatever they find it, and they think it's a little weirder than. I mean, I guess it's weird to them, but to me, like I
Yeah,
don't think it's weird. It's all
yeah,
the shit I like. Just kind
right.
of boils
Yeah, yeah,
down
yeah.
into
And it is, and it isn't because again, you know what it is. To me, why it was refreshing, but why it didn't seem super crazy. Why I liked it. To me, it was the the like Western version of when we had COC. You guys don't sound the same, but when COC did the Southern rock
yeah.
style, it was these are punk guys doing metal, but doing something like a little different like that. So to me, when I saw that, I was like, no, I get it, but man, I haven't seen that in a while. And I was like, I was glad that the band was dope because if the band sucked, I'll be like, oh, now they're gonna get be some like, oh, these
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
are no, and who are they? If you weren't guys from bands already, you know how that is. Like
yeah,
if
yeah,
if and find out who you guys were, and then the story's mad cool on the band. I know it already, but that's why also I wanted to get you on because a lot of my homeboys after we played together and I posted stuff. A lot of my boys were into the band. They're like, "Yo, great band, great band." I'm like, it's pretty, and they're like pretty bugged out how the concept and the whole thing came about. Like, and so again, like the name. I know why the name came out, but let people know how did that pop up, and then it'll go into the whole aesthetics of the band because we got to get into this whole Stetson thing. I want in a
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Spirit World, like we used to be on tour, and like I remember us and Fight Like Hell and Pale Horse were doing a run, and it was just like one of them dumb tour jokes where I don't know if we watched Young Guns or if we were just saying it, but everybody's running around being like, "We're in the spirit world, asshole. You can't see us." And it just
Yeah.
went on and on and on. And so when I started this project, I just had that tucked away. Like, I'm going to do this kind of Western
Yeah.
metal hardcore thrash band, and I'm going to rip off Young Guns and do Spirit World. It's kind
But
of, it just perfect.
yeah, yeah, and the song. So like you had these songs, you were ready to pop off, or it was the whole COVID thing that made you say, okay, let me do something. Or was that in the plan? Because it lit my fire on new music, but was it in the
Yeah, it
works
was.
already?
It looking back, it took a long time because in like 2015, 2016 or something is when I really started this, and we put out a demo of more like cowpunk songs, and we played a couple
How
shows
punk?
like
I never heard. Yo, you put me on to something, dude. I never heard that fucking term.
oh
Cowpunk.
really? Yeah, like them old bands from LA, the first wave of punks like X and them when they kind of
Yeah,
started crossing over, Dwight
yeah,
Yoakam more on
yeah,
the
yeah,
root
I get it.
side,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no, it makes total sense. Great name. Like that's one I never
yeah.
heard. Wow.
Yeah, so I wanted to do like I want to get back to that stuff, but like we wrote a demo, put it out. We played a show with Power Trip. That was like our first show because I think Riley or Hood or somebody hit me up and they were coming to town. So I was like, perfect, we'll play that one. But then right after that, that's when I decided to get sober and I was just like, pump the brakes, Playboy. Like, I'm not going to do a band and be, at least for me, like my entire youth was in that culture of like a bunch of rowdy dudes hanging out,
Yeah.
going to shows and, the nightlife. So I kind of, it took me a while once I got sober to, I kind of just stopped doing all the social stuff, like when you realize that everything you do, you're the person that's like sneaking over to the bar. It's like, am I actually doing these social things because I like bowling and kicking it and I'm here to see
I
this
like,
band, or
man.
am I just like actually a bit of a scumbag because
Yeah.
there's a bar here? So I
Yeah.
kind of like I pumped the brakes, and then somewhere during that was when I was writing all the stuff, and I'm like, I want to write some heavy shit because, like, you know how it is, man. It's like you grab a guitar. Like, I heard your new band. Like, I hear that, and I just hear Hoya doing, like, I hear the Madball groove. You can't escape it. So, like, the Folsom stuff, it's like I'm playing a guitar, I'm writing heavier stuff, and I wanted to push it because like, my first love of heavy music was like, it wasn't hardcore, it was more of the, Sepultura, Slayer, that kind of stuff. And then I got really into hardcore, like around the same time, but it was later. And so I wanted to explore writing some really like death metally, thrashy, just the kind of shit when I first like fell in
Yeah.
love with heavy music. I wanted to try and do something like that. And then next thing
Yeah.
you know, it's like the pandemic hits and I'm sitting on this record and I'm like, well, fuck it. I'll just put it out, whatever. It's not like I care about touring or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just pops like, how it is. Like sometimes a band hits at the right
Yeah.
time and maybe like apocalyptic Western band, people hearing it during the pandemic, like you, like
Perfect
people
timing.
got in, people got into it, like maybe it's meant to be. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, obviously timing helps, but obviously the band, a million bands came out. Also, it didn't mean you were gonna also pop. You had to be good, bring something to it. And I think the
Yeah.
bands that did come out and that are from, if it's a Scowl or whoever from you guys, I think everybody who has come out has brought something to the table in their genre. So fair game. But a lot, so I don't just use some. I've heard some people talking, older guys being like, yeah, a lot of these bands popped off because of this. Well, yeah, it maybe brought attention, but if your band sucks, your band sucks. It doesn't matter. That just means more people are going to see it quicker. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know how that
And I
goes.
I love all these new bands, man.
Yeah.
I came from a time in hardcore where it was hard, man. Like
Oh, yeah.
I was embarrassed putting on shows. You know what I mean? Because like I'd book a band that my crew of dudes loved.
I
And
know.
when you got 30 kids come out and you're like, dude, this is the best fucking band. Like I remember Turmoil playing here at a record store. And at the time, like that Process of record, I'm like, this is the shit. And I'm looking around and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
We can't get fucking more than 30 goddamn kids at this gig, So like all these bands popping right now, like our DIY shows are so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like like I'm just happy for the kids because
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah. No.
they don't understand how special like
And what you said is
it's on a peak,
exactly, yeah,
you
and
know?
exactly what you said. I literally was talking about that not too long ago. Long ago, it was the same thing. It's crazy how it's a lot to this stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's also bugged out. Like again, you know, to get in motion, you find out how many steps people take. I like bringing up the steps people take and where they end up because people think sometimes just because you see them out of nowhere, you assume they came out of nowhere. When it's like, nah,
Yeah.
they may be out of sight. You know what I mean? And then you find out, wow, a lot of these guys been around. Like again, you guys at a demo. It's I like when people break down stuff like that because it's never a straight line path when you pop a band off. I don't care who it is. Like there's always a growth somewhere because you know, unless you were the, you know, the Partridge Family where you were born together, like, and you're still gonna grow. Everybody grows, and the music is gonna grow one way or another. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah,
and
for sure, man.
how a lot of I came up the same way like you, thrash, metal, all that kind of stuff. Even though I'm older than you, but the same thing. And then right away at a young age, also real hardcore stuff. Blah blah blah. Now in my later, I always had that thrash bug in me, but I always used to say, you know, they got, you know, I wasn't too much with the whole when, you know, like Slayer was my favorite band, but it bothered me like in the early records when they had the makeup. I was like, why? You know, even though they were trying to be like evil, I was already like, I saw like Agnostic Front, a picture of them, and I go, those guys are like scumbags, but they're scary, but they look like normal, like
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
people. And I kind of found that more realistic, scary, and interesting, you know. But I love
Yeah.
Slay. You know, that was my shit. But I was like, okay. So I was like, but I was always, I love the crossover stuff. So it's funny how we go back to it later on. We kind of get a bug for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I realize I go in a circle with the stuff I like. You know, I like when I get into stuff, I burn it out and
yeah,
then I'm sick of it and then there's certain things I always go back to. It's crazy. And like, you know, the thing about how you present yourself with music, that was such a like mind-blowing thing. I remember I booked a show for Dropkick Murphys and it was right when Al Barr started touring with them. Maybe the first tour, I don't remember, but just like those guys and like that whole package where I hadn't been exposed to a lot of like the I don't know, just like the street punk, like oi
yeah,
scene, because they just bands didn't. There wasn't anyone around
yeah.
until after they blew up. But it was the same thing with hardcore, like seeing dudes wearing like cargo shorts, just like regular guys that look like my jock friends that I play ball with. You know,
Yeah.
like as much as I like the theatrical side, and like with Spirit World, I definitely am on that tip. But
Yeah.
there's the part of me that likes going to a show and you just see the the dudes
Right.
that go to shows. Next thing you know, they're in the band. They just
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that part of it is like it's
That's
tight,
what I
man.
was saying. It's like it's crazy because like I'm at the point now, like I, you know, when you getting very gung ho young, especially when you enter the hardcore scene, you automatically assume, okay, put your helmet on, you're going head first. You got to be, you know
Yeah,
how that is. You know, you kind of like it got to be this and nothing else. We all know it, and we tend to box ourselves in what we should be liking, or we don't let it out in the open right away all the time. You know, there was things that were certain. I remember having a discussion about a double bass song on one part of a Mabel album like fucking 15 years ago. We had to have a meeting. Like, yo, you sure? People were like, yo, it seems right. But people are gonna think we want to be hate breed. You know, it's a whole kind of thing. But it was like, fuck it, do it. We do whatever the fuck we want. But it's crazy how that happens. But I find myself, I even at the most, let's get raw. When I would play the festivals in Europe, I always enjoyed the show that the other you know, I would go see Creator, I go see whoever's playing, and they got the best banners and lights, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, but I was the first one to talk shit on theatrics as a kid, but then
yeah,
I would
yeah,
love all the bands that, yo, Slayers, it's raining blood, yo, that's hard. All right, yeah, but in any other context, I would talk shit on it, you know, and then the older
yeah,
I got, I learned to appreciate it with the music, the place, the vibe, and that's what I like that you guys brought. You know,
yeah.
and what I wanted to say
I'm the
was,
same way, man.
yeah, what I wanted to say was again about the band was, but you told me it came out of something you wrote. That's what I want to get into,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So the other piece of this was I was always writing stuff. Like I was on like the high school newspaper. I was always like really thought at some point I would write something. But then time's flying by and I just like if you don't hold yourself accountable like to put stuff out, you know what I mean? If you don't put it out in the world, there's, at least
yeah,
in my opinion, you're not really all in. And so the other piece of this, when I decided to do a band and I really want, then I wrote a book of short stories that are all these horror western things. So all the characters from those stories like are in the record. So these first three like death metal, western, thrash crossover albums I'm doing on this deal with Century Media, it's all one big concept, all the same world, all the same characters with a big. It's on several different, there's like audio books and shit now.
Yeah,
There's
that's dope.
there's a lot of the pieces of the story, so people have to like you can't just find it in the lyrics, there's like a
Yeah,
book and there's all kinds of shit. But yeah, it's like I'm not afraid. Like I'm like you, I'm getting older and I'm not afraid to be the weird art kid. Like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
care.
for sure.
Like I'll do whatever I'm into. And part of that is like I have to challenge myself to do things that I'm a little nervous about. And then
Yeah,
I feel the most I think you get the most reward when you really
yeah.
try to you may not execute it all the way, and in my head I know there's stuff that like I want to do better moving forward, but as far as like putting yourself out there, I
You pull
think
the
that's
trigger.
the yeah, pull the trigger, do it, and the worst that's going to happen is somebody who's not there yet, who's not into it, just like we were talking about, that may not like theatrical shit. Maybe they hate on you today, but in 10 years, might be that motherfucker might see us at a festival and then get
Yeah,
it and be like, "That's my new shit."
yeah, and that
So,
was me.
you
Like
know,
again, like, for sure, I was a hate, and then I was like a theatric lover later. And then nowadays, now what the stuff I'm doing is like I was like I would be like, yeah, if I came out, with the news, I definitely I like when the lights are like this, and I'm like, okay, now you're creating a mood, and I'm like, wow, that's why it's used when the band has a mood and you're trying to create a feeling in the room. Those things are tools that were, now you're stepping it up by not just getting the ears, now you're activating the eyes. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And like, and that's great when you could activate all the senses. I think you have a better time with music. Music is great. Like you could see it, listen to it, it's more than just listening. You feel it, right? It's like a
yeah.
lot of angles to the shit. And and so you got these songs. All right. So you got it goes with the music. Do you have the song simultaneously with the thing, or you have the stories already done and you tell yourself, all right, I got these songs and I got this concept. Let me start connecting the dots, or did it happen simultaneously?
It's all been kind of like working on them at the same time, but like at one point I would finish Pagan Rhythm, so I had a bunch of those lyrics done, and then I got back to the book, finished it, then it came out, then the second record, and I'm doing a bunch of writing for like the next piece of the fiction stuff. So it really one informs the other. Like there's things that I've thought about while I'm writing a song where I'm like I've made up little stories that haven't happened in the books yet, but because it happened in the song, now I'm like, oh shit, that's a good idea. So now I'll bring that back around.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that like no one will actually understand any of that like for a long time until all of this material's out. Maybe ever, I don't know. But like
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that I geek out about because I like digging into bands and projects and stuff, and I dig when somebody does something that like I love a good song, but then if there's like a whole thing underneath it, and then several years later, like maybe you find a piece of it, you see them live, and you're like, oh shit, this is a
Yeah.
whole
Like
whatever
Easter
it is.
eggs and
Like,
stuff. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I dig when people can connect the dots like that in a way that's kind
Yeah,
of
no,
unique and
it's
creative.
I thought it was really cool. That's why I wanted to definitely touch on that, because I was like, well, yo, that's dope. He wrote the story, and it's like, and the aesthetics, again, it works. When I saw your banners, the color schemes, the style of the artwork, I was like, yo,
Yeah.
that shit looks dope. And then again, it makes sense there. It didn't seem like something forced, or nothing like that. I was like, yo, that I actually got pictures of it, and I was like, man, those color schemes are dope. Like that, the yellow and the red. It
Yeah, like that, dude, if people only knew how much time like it took to figure that shit out,
yeah.
like ridiculous, bro.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
right now, like we're getting ready to do like I'm finishing up this new record, recording it right now. But then on the back of my mind, it's like I got to do the videos. I got to get these fucking custom suits made, and like Matt's getting another guitar done with all this tooled leather. So like all these little things that like part of me is just like, what am I doing? Why didn't I just start a band that I could fucking wear a pair of Dickies and my
Yeah,
simple tourist shirt, and
because
then
you did
I'm
that
fucking
already. That's why you did that already.
yeah. So now I'm like, as much fun as I'm having making the record, and like, there's that like pressure of we did so well the first time around with like that visual part
Yeah,
that I gotta like
yeah,
I can't, we can't just like phone it in. So it's like I
yeah.
gotta
You're in.
beat that. I gotta beat Death Western. I gotta beat Pagan
Yeah,
Roots. I gotta fucking crush everything.
for
Videos,
sure. But I
suits,
think
hats, all that shit.
for some reason, I think for you being that you write it and whatever, I think that's still it's perfect for a brain like that. That you it works in a big circle, like everything working together. You know, you know that you bet you got to be the circus leader as far as putting all these shit together and making it make sense, at least presentation wise. Like, but it's dope because it does. It goes with the story. You have a look also where you come from, your background. That's why I wanted to tap in because we talked about where your parents, what you heard in your house. You were
Yeah, yeah.
listening like to that style, country music and all that stuff. So it wasn't too far off to, if I started rocking fucking Stetson, a bunch of my homeboys and we're off of Corona, Queens and for the Lower East Side to be like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
because right now it seems to be in style that everybody's really tapping into the whole Southern thing. I noticed.
Yeah, that stuff, it's funny, like it comes and goes, all those things. Like hardcore's big right now, but like I'm super into like alternative country stuff. Like I followed that scene as much as I have the punk scene through the years, and it's like bands are bigger than ever that have broken away from that Nashville kind
Yeah,
of corporate
yeah,
shit that I never got too much into that stuff, but like good country music is fucking popping right now. Like me and
yes,
my girl, we're going out with some friends tonight to go see Coulter Wall. This like he's a
yeah,
young dude, Canadian, like
yeah,
total like cowhand guy that's just like bigger than fuck. He's playing the Palms, like the big room where like Bring Me the Horizon and Hatebreed and shit play. Parkway Drive, like the
yeah,
big the big room. And this motherfucker plays with like he just plays trail songs. And I'm
yeah.
like, 10 years ago, he would have played to me and like 12 other people at a
Yeah,
bar.
you know
You
the
know what
deal.
I mean? Like
I
it's
mean, it's
wild.
great. Yeah, it's great that if there's good stuff coming out, I'm always, but it's funny why I say it is, you know, again, as far as in heavy music, obviously for me personally, you're the guy, you guys for me were the first guys I saw the whole thing. And now anybody who would do that to me, I'm like, they're trying to be you guys. That's just me because I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody else did something like that. But I started noticing even, obviously, I know pop country, like, the whole Jelly Roll and all that was getting popular. I get all that. But now, Beyonce's doing a country record now, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want
sure.
I want to diss other country lovers out there, like, and Beyonce's dope for pop shit, but everybody now wants to wear, Spurs, a Stetson, you know, which
Yeah,
is
that it's crazy how stuff works. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm always glad when stuff that I personally like gets a
yeah,
little popular because all it takes is a couple of bands to really break through. And then you get that like you get that after push of all the bands kind of ripping them off, but out of 100 shitty like bands that aren't doing anything but biting somebody else, there's always those one or two interesting bands that get it right. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
always that's what I mean about hardcore right now and like
yeah.
death metal. I'm just like it's popping and there are
Hell
some badass fucking bands like there hasn't been in a long time. So
yeah, for
I've been around long enough to know like you better enjoy these shows and these bands right now because it could hit a dry spot in,
you know that.
18 months and then I'll be sitting here just wishing somebody would write a cool record.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And I agree. And I say it's great spot for music, for heavy music, the variety, what you could do, because we both know, the scenarios 10, 15 years ago couldn't be the same on a lot of shit. But again, we're not living 15 years ago also. So I
Yep.
like that. I like, hey, people just sometimes the young bucks just got to kind of give some of the older people some time. They're a little slower. That's all it is. Not every dinosaur wants to stay in the dinosaur ages. You know what I mean? I like when I love what music is now because you could go again from the raw, if it's the raw styles of thrash, the raw styles of punk, of hardcore, to the most extreme, there's a spot and it's bumping. Every time
Yeah.
I'm seeing a tour, I'm seeing packed tours, you know, and every type of. I'm thinking like I never even heard of some of these bands, and they're packed. It's just not scenes that I'm into, but like you know, they're under the heavy umbrella. And wow, it's a great to be a musician and see that. And you know how that is. It feels good to be like, all right, you know,
It
there's
does.
people.
And I think kids today are a lot more open-minded than for
Yeah,
sure. Like when all me and all my friends were early 20s, I mean, it was hardcore or nothing. And it inside of that, it was like half the kids didn't like anything that came out of New York that was heavy with the groove because that
yeah,
shit was too whatever, too aggro.
yeah,
They only like the fast bands, you know, they only like the fucking posy shit. So
yeah,
like
for sure. Yeah,
I
yeah.
go to shows here and I'm just like, it's a wild, eclectic bunch of kids at the shows playing in the bands. Like, it's great, man.
Yeah, yeah, and now and when you decided, because for anybody who has go, first of all, anybody who hasn't gone seen them, go see them because not only the band's dope and you guys tight, but we're talking about the aesthetics. They got a whole. You got to go see them and just, you got to see it to understand it. But the first, you remember the first? Did it become? Was it an evolution of the whole of the whole um 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 the whole the whole uniform, the suit, or was it like you did it one day when you said, okay, the band's gonna play? This is how we're coming out the box. Everybody we're rocking this look, or was it a progression thing? That's what.
Yeah, I had the idea, but I did not take into account how long it would take to get custom like rhinestone suits made. So we ended up, I forget what it was, but we like what the fuck show was it? Decibel put us on we did like one of their Decibel Beer and Metal Fest with like Converge was playing Jane Doe and a bunch of cool bands. And so I knew that was coming up, but then when I checked to see how to get these suits, I was just like, holy shit, these are expensive. And the turnaround time, because they're all handmade, is like it ain't quick. So
Yeah.
like I think we did that show and then we did a run with Obituary where we did kind of dress up, but I think maybe only I had a suit, and then everybody else had like pearl snap, like bright yellow, still
Or
like Western
something.
shirts and shit, but it wasn't quite dialed. And then
Yeah.
it took me until like that summer when we were doing a festival run, then we all finally had
Got you.
suits coming in, and yeah,
Yeah.
but
No,
it's
you already had the idea of like, okay, no, even with the obviously the more the band played, the more you were able to get the stuff. But you from jump, you already the plan was we're gonna come out with some type of look for this band, right? Because
yeah,
it's funny because I remember that's how Marauder was back in the day. They made it a point to come out in mechanic suits. Like they're like, nah, we're coming out in mechanic suits.
that's
Like,
hard.
they're like, we want because they were like, we want a uniform. We want everybody to be a certain aesthetic, and that was their thing early on. So
Yeah, that's I didn't know that. That's tight, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a early on Marauder. If you look, they were all in jumpsuits. I think it might have been, I don't know if Carnivore did it, but Marauder did it. Like they were like, it was a thing. You know what I mean?
That's cool,
Early
man.
on. Because they wanted to be, again, they went for it. Like they wanted to be the more crossover band in the scene and going for it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
get into more the aesthetics. Not maybe not. No, we were at the banner level, but they were like, okay, they wanted the big drums, right? They wanted to make because metal. They had to show metal, and they made sure they had the uniform, the mechanic suits and those shit.
So
So
good, man. I fucking love Marauder. I
yeah,
forget, like, there was this old, like, it was like a, maybe like a skate vid or like a rollerblading skate video, some shit. I never had it, but a friend of mine had, like, it had a soundtrack that Century Media did. And so it must have been around the time Master Killer came out or some shit because he just gave me this CD and it had, like, Stuck Mojo and Marauder and I
yeah,
don't know, a bunch of hard shit. And then
great.
I was so on the Marauder tip, man, for fucking
Yeah.
still am, dude. Love those first couple records, like incredible.
And the records on Century Media. That's who you putting on your records with.
Yeah, I did the first record by myself, and then they when we signed with them, they re-released it. So They reissued the first record, then we did Death Western, and then I'm finishing up the third LP now. Probably need
Got
another month or two, but um, it'll be maybe early next year. I don't know.
yeah,
Depends on like all the
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
time it out and do it right. That's the other thing with this is I don't have the benefit anymore of like not knowing what you should do or how you should do things. So it's like I want to put this out. I want really great videos and shit. I want a great tour. You know what I mean? I got to plot out a whole fucking year around this shit and make it all right. And then do it around my day job and my life. So it's, it's a lot of
yeah, yeah, for
juggling.
sure. No, no,
You know what I
definitely.
mean?
No. And you guys, and it is good that you're able to do it because I know you're busy, and I seen you guys on like, which is great and pretty bugged out. Was a lot of different eclectic tours. I know you were on a bugged out one recently with what was it? The Stick to Your Guns? Was it that one?
Yeah, we just did. It was Stick to Your Guns, Comeback Kid, Orthodox. And
Yeah,
one thing that I've been trying really hard to do that is just play with different crowds. Like every once in a while you see a band that's like an underground band or whatever, but they're allowed to somehow play
yeah,
wherever they want. And I've
yeah,
always respected and like my old band couldn't do that, like we were so pigeonholed in Vegas, like we couldn't play the big rooms because nobody wanted us. They didn't want kids going crazy, like
fucking with
moshing
us.
hard. Like they hated all that shit. And
Of
we
course.
loved the fact that they hated us. So then when we did play, we egged it on, and like at the time you're just living it. That's how you're living, so you get what you
Oh
you,
my
you
god.
reap what you
I
sow.
know, I know. Oh, believe me, I did that shit for the first 20 years of my life in this
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, I ain't got to tell you. So with this band, like that's one thing I've said is like we're gonna play anytime anywhere, and
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
get looked at like we're crazy,
Yeah, well,
that's okay. Just play tighter. Just hit the
yeah,
groove. And even the biggest fucking hater of my band, if they're standing in the room when we play live, there's a couple of them parts where the riffs go one
yeah,
right after each other and it hits the groove and it's just like it's
yeah.
undeniable. And I
Yeah, and
know that
every show you'll catch somebody for sure.
yeah, and it's like I know that, so it's like I don't give a fuck. I'll play to the I don't
Yeah,
know who Stick to Your Guns draws. Like that was a weird crowd. Like, you
yeah,
know,
for
the
sure.
kind of Warp Tour, straight edgy, whatever. I don't even know what those kids are. Like I don't
Yeah,
see.
yeah, I know. Same thing. Believe me, even in the past, if I would have done it with my old band, same thing. It would have been again like, oh, okay, how was this gonna be like? Because it's
Yeah,
definitely its own world, kind of, and its own following, and
yeah,
there's cool band and dope stuff. But yeah, definitely, it's crazy how the branches work on some of this stuff. Like, you
it
know,
is. And I don't judge. Like I'm thankful that we get to play in front of other crowds because
oh
I
yeah,
don't want to have like I know what that feels like to be playing in a room and it's going to be the same kids and they're the only ones you're allowed to play to and you can't go up and you can't go sideways and you just like sure it'll work for a little while but then after you've been to Memphis, Tennessee 5 times like you're going to get kids to come out 6, 7, 8 trip. So
yeah,
I'm always thankful that to even get put in the position to play in front of somebody new and like try
yeah,
and win some folks over. Like that's a
yeah, no,
big
for
thing
sure.
that
I give it
people
to you
don't
guys.
think, you know?
I give it to you for that because I seen you guys in a lot of different stuff, and every time even when I saw you guys last time and we were talking, you were like, "Yeah, we play with whoever, just get us on, and we'll do this." And
Yeah,
that's
and
well, you know how it is.
it's been hard to like get people to understand that there is value in being the
Yeah,
oddball band.
yeah,
Like it doesn't feel as good, trust me. Like I would rather we did a tour with Creator and Sepultura and it's like every night you feel like you're meant to be a guitar god because you're like the whole place erupts and it's like taking
yeah,
candy from a baby. But then you go do the Stick to Your Guns tour and you play a couple stuck up like
yeah,
hardcore crowds where nobody
and-
moves, everybody just like, you
yeah.
know, looking like you
Oh,
stepped in dog shit on the way in.
oh, I know that
You know?
look. I had a bunch of those looks. I had people looking at me that were like a third my age, looking at me with that look, like almost like, "What are you doing here?" To
Yeah,
me,
exactly.
I,
It takes a little confidence and
it's
it
yeah,
takes some maturity to get used to that. We're like playing live you
Yeah.
have to like love the songs and love the
Yeah.
band you're on tour with and be able to play tight and have that be your reward. Be like, damn, we smoked it. And then in reality, the goddamn crowd was just stank
Yeah.
facing you. But
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, but and you know what? I hear it every day from every time I watch all these behind the music, to this, to that. Some of the biggest bands on the planet. You hear about stories where they were going up and just getting booed.
yeah,
Like
no
straight
doubt.
up booed. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. How the hell? Like, I don't care. I heard stories from Biggie Smalls getting booed. If it was Metallica getting booed, if it was whoever, like famous ass people, at, still doing good. Just in the at the moment it wasn't what, and then look what they go on to be. It's like, hey, you got to
Yeah.
keep pounding away. There's people out there. The world is full of people. There's an abundance of audience. You just got to be able to get in front of those people and find your audience. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, you got to find them.
Yeah. And I go to so many shows. Like, I love when I see a band that I've never heard of, even if they don't fit into that bill, just if they're cool. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a, I still dig that, man. Like, I love running into something new. So to me, I always, in the back of my head, if it's a kind of a tough crowd, I'm always like, that's okay. Cause there's going to be
Yeah.
a handful of these people here that we're the best thing they've seen all night, and they'll be back
That.
next time,
Oh, that's for sure. And those are the people that are going to buy the shirt. They're going
Yep.
to buy the inflatable cactus that you guys are going to put on.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You're gonna get all that, the tumbleweeds with the stew tumbleweed kit where
Yeah.
everybody is there on tumble. And one thing that's dope about you guys, I don't know if it's the same spot or what, but you know, you guys got all your production sounds really dope, and it's kind of got its own tones and sound to the whole thing. Still sounds big and hangs with everything. Has a classic sound, but it's a unique spot. Is it a certain studio, or is that
Yeah,
specific
dude, I
person?
got so lucky. My homeboy Sam Pura, we did the last Folsom record with him in like 2008 or 9 or something, and he's just one of them weird kids that got into like, he put it this way, he was recording bands in like a U-Haul like storage
Yeah,
unit, you know, and then he ended up getting in with like his own studio, just like, fuck it, I'm gonna get a nice spot. And he started doing records, and he did a bunch of like big, like pop punk bands that blew the fuck up. So he just kept putting money back into his studio. And when I did this project, one, I'm glad you brought this up because like there's a million bands. And I hate when like bands of a certain like time era, if they're a heavy band, everybody uses the same producer, the same mixer, and they reamp it through their amps and they sound good, but they sound the same. So
yeah,
I wanted to make sure like I don't want my shit to sound like Power Trip. I don't want it to sound like any of my friends' bands. And part of that is like I'm using a studio that like isn't known for doing super heavy stuff, but Sam loves heavy music. We're super tight, so I'm able to like I don't know.
yeah,
We're just able to do our own thing that's like also separates us because we don't sound like anybody else, on the
that's
production tip.
yeah, no, for sure. The production is great. I know, and that's what I noticed about it. It's like it creates the vibe for your songs. It really has its
Yeah.
own. Like, I don't know if it's a room or a certain piece of equipment in there, but certain tones that you guys get that it just fits. That's why I noticed that specifically, and that's a thing that it's hard to be, everybody has their sound, but it's hard to really keep creating that sound. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah. And what's wild about that is I say I love making records, but anyone that knows me knows I'm full of shit. Like I hate going on tour. I like writing songs, but I don't like making the records because I'm a psycho. Sam's a psycho. We spent 3 days up there just fucking picking out guitar heads and like which mic on which speaker. Okay, we like this cab, but it's got to be. We do so much of that stuff that like when I was young, I never had time to make a good record, because you don't have any money and it's like you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And so I learned from those mistakes where like because one of my close friends has a studio, I'm able to pay him like get in there and both of us are like, we're gonna make the baddest shit we can. And if we gotta sit here for 3 days to just so we know that we got the right mic choice for these cabs and the guitars, like everything in the signal chain.
Yeah,
We're
for
so
sure.
anal about it. And this new record's even worse because like I like everything we do to a point, and then all I hear is the shit where I'm like, nah, that ain't it. There's parts of these records I'm like, that ain't it. I gotta fix that. I can't live with this shit. Can't listen to it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't care how many people like my shit. I've realized that I'm the only person that I care, which
Yeah, no, I know you feel
sounds
bothered.
stupid or whatever. Like, but it's true. It's like I make these records for me, and until I make one that I can't complain about,
Yeah.
I won't be happy. But
Yeah.
there's so many fucking different choices you can make. It's like at the time you make the best record you can, but like I'm really digging in on like the guitar tones this time and really being super intentional about capturing that shit on the way in and making. Dude, I spent so much time on the new record. Like we were fucking tracking a bunch of like cuz I'm doing some like country songs on there too.
Oh,
And
dope.
I was sitting in there and that band Tsunami? You know those
Yeah.
guys? Like they were in the other half of the studio working with this other dude, Charles. I don't they were like making a 7-inch or something. I don't know what they're doing, but like I'm in there like playing this Telecaster, like doing these like twangy ass leads. And one of their dudes, we were talking in the hallway, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Is this the spirit world?" I'm like, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it." Because I literally sat there for like 6 fucking hours playing the same like 2 riffs, just like,
Yep.
crazy
Working.
person shit. Yeah, I'm like, "It has to be perfect. Nope, this ain't it. That ain't
Yeah.
it. Grab the other Telecaster," like,
Yeah. 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 But that's dope. But that's dope
and
because
they did a whole fucking song. They were in there banging out drums, fucking by the time they left, I was really feeling like a psycho because I'm like, "Jesus, what am I doing to myself?" I sat here all fucking day playing a hollow body and a Telecaster to get the one parts of this. And these boys are over here like dominating the whole world with the sickest shows ever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They knock out a fucking song in like what 8 hours, bro.
Oh, yeah, everybody greatness works in different ways. But and I agree because
Yeah,
stuff like that, again, like all right, music is, the guy, like especially with heavy, hardcore stuff and heavy, you're creating, a feeling. Yeah, but that stuff is like a vibe. So it's a feeling, and it's kind of it leads not just on the inside, it almost on the outside creates the vibe. Like I said, your tones do that with your guitar tones. It kind of goes with the songs, it goes with the whole feel of the band. That's why I was curious on the studio you used and all
yeah,
that stuff, because I'm always a guy who, as I'm a bass player, but I was always a fantasy guitar guy. So I always would listen to guitar tones, who's playing what studio sounds like what. That was
yeah,
always my thing. Like I always wish I was a guitar guy. I write everything on guitar, but I know one chord. But you know what I
yeah, yeah.
mean? But I was like,
That's me, dude. Like I write all this stuff, but like I'm not the guitar guy. Like all my friends are better than me. I'm
yeah,
just the guy that's like I can just see the whole picture. And
yeah,
like I listen to so many records and like go back through and I'm like I have to understand exactly how they made it, Like watch every interview. I'm like, what amp? What the fuck was Rob Flynn using? Oh, he's got like it's definitely
yeah.
like the whole thing. Like I think everybody gets like that. You get too far in this game and
No, they
you
don't.
rip off the bands you love and then you
Everybody
find
doesn't
it.
do that. There's people that study the game, and you can tell those are the people that are putting out quality. They're doing it and whatever. You could tell because you have to study this game. There's a lot of people, a lot of angles to this, from exactly how we're gonna sound like that. How could we get movement like that from behind the board, in front of the board. You know what I mean? There's a lot of
Yep,
angles to
yep.
this. You know that from being around, and that's why it's I'm in I know we both are in good spots, being seasoned and being older. And now, okay, you see all the moving parts. Now it ain't like, yo, let's just make some cool songs. It's like, okay, do you want these cool songs to be heard? Okay, if we want them to be heard, are we gonna upload it? Where's it gonna get uploaded? Who we gonna do that? Are we gonna play live? Are we gonna play live? If so, who's gonna be the best? People don't
Yep.
understand this. They don't put it together. But you
Yeah,
know,
it's that's the thing that's cool about it. Like there's no wrong way to do there's no right way to do a band, but there sure are a lot of wrong ways to do it. And
Yeah.
when you're one of the people that has like hit the dead ends and like done a bunch of stupid shit that didn't work out, like you always that next time you're like, oh, you're not gonna get me this time, baby. I
Yeah.
learned from this mistake, you know?
And the record. So when does the record? What's all the info on the record and all that? Any release dates? Or it's still getting?
Yeah, we're gonna do a I think we're gonna do some shows in May. We're going out to around Chicago for that Dark Lord Day, and we'll probably do some shows out there. And then we're doing a fest run. I think in August, like 2 3 weeks, something like that. So the idea is to like maybe start dropping the singles, maybe when we go to Europe. So I got a little time. I'm gonna try and spend another couple months geeking out in the studio and get this shit on lock. I'm tracking a
Yeah.
lot of the vocals at my house,
Oh,
which makes it nice because I can really take a lot of time and nitpick it to death, you know?
yeah, definitely. So now you just basically. Oh, so but all the songs are done, or
Yeah, everything's written, and I'm just in the point of like, I do it kind of weird. I make all the songs and then I kind of replace the sounds. Like, I'll have my demo, and then I'm like, now I want to get the real guitar. So now I've quad tracked all the rhythms, and then my
Gotcha.
homies come in and play the leads. But
Gotcha.
yeah, kind of like reverse engineer a demo and layer on all the stuff. It takes a long time, but it's the only way I can do it where like the playing and everything is so tight and so perfect that
Yeah.
it like I want my shit to sound like one of them big major label bands that spent like
Agreed.
fucking $1 million and spent a
Agreed.
year. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? Like
Yeah, for sure. For
that's the
sure.
type of shit I like.
And
That's
that's
where
what it
I'm
is. And it sounds great what you guys are doing. And I think that's what that should be the goal. As kids, our goal was a little bit different, but the big picture is this: more people will not get to see us live, and we would want them to have the best representation of the music that we bust our ass over, and also from the production people to everybody. Like now I don't want to. I won't put out nothing unless it's got to be.
yeah.
What I think the best I could do with everything I got, because it's that's gonna live on after we're gone. So make sure that thing could hang for a bunch of years. It's like
Yeah.
and the deal, and that's great. It's like you got a studio hooked up. That's
Yeah,
very
and you're right. Like you can put out like I love records. I love a ton of records that sound like shit, honestly. And like I bet you that like I've known people that like I talk about a record I love and they're like, "Oh, we hate that. The recording, the mixer ruined it. It sucks. I can't listen to it." And in my head, I'm like, "You're crazy, dude. That shit's a classic."
yeah.
And so I try to keep that in mind as like psychotic as I get about this stuff, but also that's where it's like it's only about me and my taste, and it's like I know I have to try and hit it out of the park for me. Anything short is cutting corners, and I'm the type of person that I can't live with that. I may not capture the performance because I can't physically do it, but I'll be damned if I didn't try 101 takes to get that motherfucker.
Listen, what better way to end it? That's motherfucking spirit world shit. And just to say, I see eye to eye on 1,000% with you, and I couldn't say it any better. And then I'm in the same boat, and and everything you just said couldn't be said any better. And it goes to showing the quality of what you do. That's why I'm a fan of the band. I root for you guys. I'm always watching. I want to hear the new shit. I'm waiting for I got some new stuff I'm gonna get you soon, so you can check out too. I want you to peep out because
Hell
I got
yes.
and what's let everybody out there know the merch anywhere where they could get any merch or anything that you're doing that you want people to know where they could get it.
Yeah, I mean, we got merch, spiritworldprofit.com, but whatever, just jam the shit, go to shows, hang out with your friends, man. Like, we'll be to your town at some point, but start a band. Don't
Yo,
listen to mine. Like, do your own shit. Like, go be the new tsunami.
yeah, listen, definitely listen. I want to hear that new Spirit World. I'm glad I got you on again. I'm really psyched on the new record. I want to hear some of the shit and whatever. I'm curious, and tell all the fellas I said what's up, and everybody out there, go get on that Spirit World. Go Spotify them. Go get a Stetson. Go blast it. Go get that Tsunami also, but then go blast the Spirit World. Then go get the Folsom. Go get all that.
Yeah.
Listen. Good to talk to you, brother, and hopefully to see you soon. And we will be playing soon somewhere.
Hell yeah.
One
Thank
way or
you,
another,
man.
right?
Great
Yo,
catching up.
peace out, everybody. Yo, we out of here. Spirit World Smoking Word Podcast. We out of here. Peace.